How do I deal with jet lag during business travel? Hey and welcome everyone. It's day 26 of our 90-day game plan. I am back in Singapore. Got to spend the afternoon with my family. Tomorrow, Monday, I'm back in the office and it's going to be full on office hustle mode again. Not that the past week wasn't full on hustle mode, but it was a bit different. I kind of shared a lot. It was a lot of travel in Europe. So now obviously being back in Singapore, yeah, just the focus and the attention, everything kind of changes a bit. But the topic, and I thought was really, really fitting, is how do I deal with jet lag? And one thing up front, I'm absolutely terrible with jet lag. Always been, and I know, always been struggling with it. The very first time in my life that I had jet lag, I had no clue what jet lag was, and I think many, many people don't have that much clue on what jet lag is until it actually hits them. Was when I was going to the US when I was 16, and I still remember how tough it was just staying up in the evening and just being super, super tired. So I know I have just tried to figure out so many different things that yeah, that help me a bit with jet lag. Obviously, I've been trying, for example, to kind of pre-adjust already up front, especially when I fly from Singapore to Europe or when I fly from Europe to the US, right? For example, to try to stay up even longer, because at the end, that's what you have to do when you go westbound, right? You have to try to stay up longer. For me, generally, that's the harder one. And I know for most people, it's actually the easier one. Because in general, people are night owls or they have no issue kind of staying up a bit longer. For me, this is really tough. I'm an early riser. And so for me, it's very tough sometimes to stay up very, very, very late. Now, here are a couple of things that I just have learned in doing. One key thing is I try to adjust my meals, not up front, but already when I travel, and I try to adjust it to that new time rhythm. That's one thing that I have really learned that really helps me on westbound travel. So everything on westbound is obviously about trying to stay up longer, right? So it's really key to adjust my meal plan according to this. The other thing, whenever I get there and I'm starting to get tired, I do go to the gym. I go out for a walk. I try to be outside, just kind of trying to kind of refresh and get up a bit, right? I don't know, go for a run. I like going in for the to the sauna in the evening, so that's also something that kind of helps me stay up a bit longer. I don't know exactly. There's some studies around if sauna is gonna keep you up or get you tired. For me, it wakes me up a bit, so I like to do that. Going to the gym. Anything that kind of activates everything. And then the other thing, I always have some caffeine tablets. I mean, there's these, I don't know, there's green tea and caffeine and so on. I kind of have like a bundle of those and I try to always take them to, I don't know, stretch myself for a little bit, right? And I don't know, at the end, it really comes down to being super disciplined. What I have kind of found is that for every 2 hours of jet lag, I need about a day to adjust. So in this case, I was 6 hours to Europe. It took me about 3 days, but it was brutal because I arrived on Saturday and then like already on the first day, I basically had to stay up until like I think 10:30 p.m., which is 4:30 a.m. in Singapore. It was brutal, but I think I did quite well. So I think that's really, really important. Then the other thing when you go westbound, so the first thing is you really have to be disciplined in just staying up, doing whatever it takes so you stay up. And then obviously you have this issue that you wake up super early because obviously you're 6 hours ahead in this case. And so here you just have to be disciplined and I don't know, do whatever it takes that you don't get on your phone, you don't get on your computer at 3 a.m., for example, which would be 9 a.m. in Singapore. And then you just play around and do stuff. So you have to try to stretch this, stay in bed. Now, if you're someone who has no problem sleeping long anyways, you're going to have an easy time. But for me, right, someone who was like on a 5 a.m. schedule here in Singapore, so I get up at 5 a.m., then, you know, that's basically 11 p.m. in Europe. That's the time when I would have gotten up. So obviously, it was so difficult to kind of sleep in. And so what I really had to do was I put in an audiobook, put in podcasts, and just try to stay in bed, not trying to get some dopamine triggers that kind of wake me up, but really try to kind of stretch and stretch and stretch and just I don't know, try to get to that new wake up time, and I tried to stay wake up at between 5 and 5:30 in the morning, anyways, in Europe. So that was kind of the rhythm this direction. So yeah, I think that's a really really key thing. And then I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people I don't know they work with a lot of light and I don't know going outside and putting their getting into the grass. Maybe you have some really good tips, especially with the westbound travel. For me, that's the harder one. Now comes the eastbound travel. And eastbound travel is basically going from the US to Europe, it's going from Europe to Asia. It's that travel where you have no issue staying up late, but then obviously waking up the next day is really, really tough. For example, tomorrow, let's say I wake up tomorrow, I'm probably going to wake up with the kids, let's say at 7 a.m. I'm not going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. That would be killing me. So 7 a.m., which is 1 a.m., right, in Europe. And so obviously it's so brutal. The entire hormone system is kind of not changed and messed up and so on. So it's just really, really tough in that sense. But here's two things. The first one, I'm not a big believer in taking sleeping pills or taking melatonin, but for jet lag, I'm completely open in doing so. So I am open in taking a sleeping pill to really fight the jet lag in this direction, or taking melatonin. Normally, I do it for maybe 2 days because afterwards I'm set to the new schedule anyways. I would never, ever, ever take sleeping pills or melatonin. I know if I just have a hard time sleeping in general, I think there's something else that kind of you need to battle there a bit. But for me, it's really only for those jet lags, so I can really reset. So for example, today it's I'm recording this now live, so it's 8 p.m. ish here. So I'm probably gonna go to bed at 10 p.m., which would be 4 p.m. So impossible to sleep. But then I take a melatonin, take a small sleeping pill, maybe I take half or something, and normally that allows me to really switch to a new schedule relatively quickly. That's why I actually like the eastbound travel so much. I find it so much easier because it's all about falling asleep, which is quite easy with the sleeping pill or the melatonin. Whereas you go westbound, I don't know, you just stay up longer, and I think this is just so difficult. You can take a caffeine pill or some green tea or something, but I don't know. I just don't find it as easier. And then in the morning, right? It's really about getting in that rhythm really, really quickly. So it's really about getting up. For me in the morning, I don't know. For me, cold in the morning just works really well. So either it's a cold plunge or it's a cold shower, whatever works there, and just get up. I don't know, if you're the person who wants to go to the gym in the morning, then do that. But whatever it takes in the morning, you kind of get going. And I want to be very honest, right? During the jet lag at the beginning, the very early morning hours, you're always a bit foggy. It's always a bit tough because you're basically still half asleep. So just kind of get in that rhythm, and maybe in the first 1 or 2 days, don't do the most difficult things in the morning, but really try to kind of reset that rhythm. As a whole, I really try to travel as little as possible now. I'm not a big traveler anymore. I used to travel so much as a kite surfer. I was traveling, I don't know, 200, 250 days a year, and it was nonstop. Now it's more whatever I have to. And I mean, it was a great week, don't get me wrong, but it's not something where I just want to travel and travel and travel. So, yeah, these are my kind of action tips, how I deal with jet lag. If you have thoughts, ideas, let me know. And if you want to have more of these things, make sure you subscribe. Questions, let me know below. I'll answer them as well. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of a Sunday. See you tomorrow for a full office week. All the best. Yours truly, Julian. Bye.